I always feel a bit guilty in these Titan videos because the techniques I use aren't always going to be that useful for helping you with your hobbying. But this time around, I'm not only going to show you how to paint giant glowing plasma coils, I'm also going to show you how to cheat this effect on regular sized plasma guns in seconds. My name's Guy, you're watching Midwinter Minis, and this video has been sponsored by Audible. I'm going to be honest, I was a bit intimidated by the massive coils of the Sunfury Plasma Annihilator, the most stupidly large and potent plasma weapon in Warhammer 40k. Now, I don't think my old no airbrush glow tutorial is going to cut it on something this size. However, having seen Steve from Little Plastic People's Knight Army in the flesh and his amazing plasma effect, I had to follow his step-by-step tutorial and try it out. And who better to guide me than the man himself?
Hi again! Apparently I live here now.
Now this is where some heavy guilt sets in. While I was putting the finishing touches to last week's video, I asked Hattie to mask off the metal areas around the plasma coils to make the airbrush base coating easier. But it turns out, to follow Steve's guide, we didn't need to do that at all.
Sorry Hattie, we do need some masking, but just maybe not this masking.
Don't worry about it, Steve, it's fine.
Okay Steve, you want to run us through the basics and I'll get it done?
Okay, so I'm just going to mix up a magic mix of white, use the watercolours because of the medium that's got in it, the white ink because of the pigment, and the gloss medium just to give it something to bind, and some flow improver to help it flow, and then there's a little bit of airbrush thinner, but we don't need that really, you could just use water. We're doing equal parts of all of those, trying to look for something that's around the semi-skimmed milk thing that everyone says, that or a little bit thicker. So now we're painting it over all of the coils, and the flow improver here helps it go right into those cracks and makes them really nice and bright for the next stage. Okay, and now we're reapplying some masking tape. We're going to use some modelling masking tape. Tamiya tape or anything similar is pretty good. It's less tacky, leaves a nice crispy edge when you peel it away, and it's just a generally better finish than the traditional kind of painter's masking tape. Okay, now we're going to use the same white mix, and we're just going to spray that very carefully over the coils. All that's going to do is just make it a bit more of a solid finish over the top of the coils. Don't worry if you get a little bit of overspray here, that's okay, it'll be covered up, but try and be as careful as you can. The masking tape along the bottom stops the overspray and gives a nice clean edge, a nice bit of contrast from where the brightest point and the darkest points are going to be.
Now to stop the white ink reactivating with wet coats of paint over the top, I added a quick blast of gloss varnish to seal it in. For the first blast of colour, we're going for Warp Lightning, covering most of the coil sections, but leaving a little bit of white still showing at the bottom. Man, this was a terrible angle to film from. Sorry, it does get better, I promise.
And now with exactly the same white mix, we're going to go back over the bottom edge, nice and tight, nice and careful, and this is just to help pop the glow effect. And now we're going to use some of the fluorescent green. We're going to go across the centre of all the coils. There are loads of Vallejo fluorescent greens. We're going to be using 70.737, but to be honest, they're all about the same. Okay, now we're going to hit it with some Vallejo fluorescent yellow right along the bottom. This is going to help really pop that glowy effect. And now it's time to peel off the masking tape.
Ooh, look at that sexy edge.
To really push the contrast from light and dark, we're going to go across the top of the coils with a little bit of Magos purple.
I really like that actually. It doesn't look purple, it just kind of looks dark and rich.
Now for a little bit of gloss varnish, this is going to help make sure that all of our previous work doesn't reactivate when we go back over it again with some inks.
I actually really like the look of it here. Maybe I should have left it, but I did carry on following Steve's guide, despite me not being quite as good a painter as him.
Okay, so now we're going to use a little bit of Shyish purple. We're going to mix that and we're going to let that flow down into the coil recesses right at the top, just to try and help get a bit of contrast. Oh, not quite that much. Oh dear, a little bit too much on the brush there.
No, I can fix it, please. Oh no.
Okay, using the same kind of technique but with the white mix we've used previously, we're going to run that along the bottom edge. Again, this is going to push up that contrast between the lightest light and the darkest dark. Let the ink just seep into the gaps. Not that much.
Oh man, I'm so bad at this. I can't stop making these little flicky marks as I pull the brush away.
Okay, this is probably where I should have said that you want to move your brush so that where the brush stops is where the brightest point is going to be, or where the most paint's going to be left. That's kind of my fault for not saying anything.
So I should be painting up to down, not down to up here. I mean, good job I tried this for the first time in the Warlord Titan, right?
Well, maybe the best thing to do is to practice on something that doesn't matter quite as much as a Titan.
I don't know what you mean. We're going to do a quick thin coat of AK Deep Yellow to soften the effect a little bit, hopefully mask off that ugly white edge. Then I'm also going to darken down the top edge with a tight spray of Shaiish Purple to bump up the contrast a little bit more. Okay, moving on to the reflective dot stage. Now Steve didn't tell me to do this, maybe there's a reason for that, but I added a strip of masking tape to each coil section to keep the dots straight so they won't be wonky and all over the shop. I used Magos Purple along the tops of the coils, using the edge of my brush to catch multiple at once. And then once that was dry, I used a blob of Shaiish Purple dragged to the bottom of the reflection, trying my best not to let it touch the tape. I then added a tiny dot of white ink to the deepest, darkest bits of the coils, using the tape to guide me. And while I waited for that to dry, and while I still had the ink out, I ran another bead of ink along the bright edge because I want it to really shine. Unfortunately, there are a few sections where either the Shaiish Purple had run under the masking tape or the tape itself had pulled off some of the light layers of paint underneath, so I quickly mixed up Citadel Moot Green with the Fluo Green and Yellow that we'd already used to get a paint with a similar saturation and tone, and then lightly touched up the imperfect bits. I actually really love the look of this effect, and I think that once it's set against the completed Titan, it's going to look gorgeous. I might go back in and retouch it a little and add some green glow on the armor panels that face the gun when the time comes though. Right then, so how do we take all this knowledge, condense it, and translate it into painting a regular sized plasma weapon at light speed with no airbrushing? Basically by only using the most effective, dramatic steps. Those will be the things that look great on the tabletop and are perfect for army painting. Yo, Guy from the future here. I've got a ridiculous video on the way, another no sleep marathon where I try my best to paint the rest of my massive Necron army in Awana, and I'm gonna be honest, it would have been far less enjoyable if it wasn't for Audible, the sponsor of this video. So many of my friends absolutely love Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, and I've tried my best to get into it for years, but I've just really struggled to find where to start. I tried out Night Watch because it had the most reviews on Audible, so I thought that might be a good place to start, but I didn't have a clue what was going on. There were so many characters and weird things happening, I felt a bit lost. Anyway, my mate Simon said that I'd made a big mistake and that I should listen to Guards instead. And yeah, I think that's me on the Pratchett party bus now. Most of the story is told through the eyes of an outsider, so it acts as a great introduction to the world as Carrot experiences the dark, bizarre city of Ankh-Morpork. It's way funnier than I was expecting, no doubt helped by the awesome narration from Nigel Planer, who will always be Neil from the Young Ones to me. Surprise! If you're Discworld curious, why not give Guards a go? Follow the link in the description, head to audible.com/midwinterminis or text midwinterminis to 500500 to get a 1-month free Audible Plus trial on me and enjoy this, plus countless other exclusive shows, podcasts and audio dramas. Right then, let's get this old plasma gun painted up with a black undercoat, gunmetal dry brush and a very light silver dry brush. Plasma coils. Let's go. It was definitely worth undercoating the coils with white to help bump up the general vibrancy. Now this time, let's use something like Tesseract Glow to get a quick start, tinting the coils a vibrant green while picking out some texture at the same time. I like the effect of using Magos Purple to tint the green, so let's drag it up from about the midway point on the coils all the way up to the top and over. And then that really deep Shaiish Purple on top and a little bit over the sides. The veins of paint might trickle down the coils, but that's okay, we can fix that in a sec if they go too far. Now let's add that bead of white ink along the very bottom edge, being careful not to go over onto the metal that borders the underside of the coils. We want to keep that big pop of contrast and a clean line. And then once that's dried, just do it again, but this time dilute the paint a little bit more with water. I mean, water's fine, but Flow Improver will also help to accentuate the effect. You can see that this is wanting to creep up the coils. It won't go too far with the tiny amount we're adding, but it makes the effect really pronounced. If you go over the bottom edge, tidy it up with your gunmetal paint to keep the line nice and sharp. And to fix any areas where the dark purple travelled down a bit too far or the white snuck up a bit too far, we'll grab some Moot Green and just lightly touch up any areas that ruin the smooth look in the middle. As a final touch, you could always add a bit of thin Tesseract Glow to areas around the side of the coils and to the chest of any painted models the plasma gun is attached to, and this is a really quick and basic way of adding a nice plasma glow. And that's kind of it. Fast but very striking plasma weapons that look fantastic on the tabletop. Now if you don't fancy green, you can still get the same contrasting colour effect of using the purple to offset the green by using a triad complementary colour. So if you want a red glow, try contrasting it with blue. And likewise, if you want a blue glow, you can contrast it with a dark red. So I hope you found this video useful. If you want to try it out for yourself and want to see Steve's step-by-step guide, I've left a link for that in the video description. Now, despite my protests, Steve never lets me reimburse him for his time helping me with this titanic project, so I got him a little treat to say thanks. A mint condition sealed copy of the 4th edition of Space Hulk. What a hero. Well deserved for helping me not make this thing look terrible. And that's it for now. Don't forget to grab your free Audible trial on me with the links in the description and pinned in the comments, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.
Bye!
I'm still bitter about the masking tape, but yeah, bye!
Shaiish.
Sure.
Shaiish. Why not?